Hi, welcome to our second edition of Parry Sound in Question. My name is Jack Tynan, your host and editor of the Parry Sound North Star, and we're in the West Parry Sound District Museum on Tower Hill. And with this program, we hope to introduce you to newsmakers, community builders, and other people of interest. And today we have with us Alan Bottomley, Chair of the Near North District School Board. Alan Bottomley represents residents in the northeast part of the Near North Board, and is now serving his second term as chair of the Near North Board.
Yes, I am.
Welcome to In Question, Alan.
Thank you very much.
We're going to talk about the year ahead, but before we do that, let's talk a little bit about 2006, because it was a tough year for the Near North Board. With dropping enrollment and a tight budget, you had to move, correct me if I'm wrong, about $5.2 million from reserves to get through that fiscal year. How did we get to that point?
Part of the problem is we don't know what our revenues will be. The ministry always promises the revenues will be out by February, which is normally when we set our budget. Last year, we got them the last bit in July. And so we started to see the revenue flow, and there were cuts, major cuts in some areas. Our decline enrollment, they used to have a little bit more of a cushion for that, and they've taken that away. So we were quite shocked, but by that time, it was too late to do much. For instance, if you want to lay off teachers or EAs, we have a lot, contractual timelines. Right. It was past that.
They'd already started work.
Yes, so we could do very little. We decided not to fill some positions that had come open, but really it left the board scrambling to get a balanced budget, which by law we have to have.
So the biggest change was the provincial money tied to that and declining enrollment?
Yes, and some grants ended. We never know. I don't want to sound pessimistic, but often we get these grants and we build programs on it, and then suddenly they pull them out. And it may be that there are 3 or 4 teachers and some other people employed by the board under that grant, and it disappears. We have little or no warning about that.
Right.
So these are things we face constantly. But declining enrollment definitely is a major issue. It's been estimated next year, over this year, for next year we'll lose 600 kids.
Last year was about 250?
Yeah.
Wow. And so
these are all in the elementary panel, by the way.
Oh, really?
The bubble will come up and hit the high schools, I think, in 2 or 3 years. But right now it's the elementary where we're really hurting.
How much money is tied to a student?
Well, it depends. We get roughly $6,000 per elementary student. We get more for a secondary student, but the whole problem with this funding, and it's hard to get across to the public what the funding formula does. And quite frankly, I have been fighting this ever since I got on the board. I think it was invented by the Conservative government to slash funding for education, and it works wonderfully to do that. All your money's tied to enrollment. Okay, and it sounds good. People say that's the way it should be, but let's just pick on a school. Well, okay, if it's tied to enrollment and your school's full, then there should be no problem. But it's tied to enrollment, and they have this perfect school in their statistical definition. You have to have 360 kids roughly to get full funding for an elementary school.
And we have some pretty small schools in some pretty rural areas.
William Beatty is the only one in all of Parry Sound District, including the old East Parry Sound, that is at that level or greater. So that's fully funded. But if we go to something like Nettawan or Whitechurch, you're down to 70 kids.
Right.
So what do we get funded for that? Well, you put 70 over 360 and multiply, and you get that percentage. So those schools are
this year you're going to have to look at school closures, and we'll be right back in a moment to talk about that.
Okay.